Well, Mohammed Marandi is Professor of English Literature and Orientalism at the University of Tehran and joins us now. Thank you for being with us. I know you're in Beirut. You will have heard the condemnation from the US and from the British Prime Minister. What is the chance now of a de-escalation in the region?
It depends on the Israeli regime. The Israeli regime has been carrying out a genocide in Gaza. It has been carrying out genocidal attacks in Lebanon with the full support of the British government, the American government, and they are just as guilty of these war crimes as is Netanyahu. And when the Israeli regime assassinated a foreign official in Iran, the political leader of Hamas, when the Israelis assassinated him at the UN Security Council, the British refused to allow a condemnation. So effectively, the British, the Americans, the French supported the airstrike on Iran's embassy. They supported the assassination of a foreign leader, diplomat in Iran. Well, under those circumstances, they are the ones who are guilty of bringing about escalation. They continue to feed the Israeli regime with bunker busters to slaughter people here in Beirut, and then they condemn Iran. I think people should be very careful about what's happening. One of your guests said that the Iranian attacks didn't cause any damage. I'm glad to know that he knows all the results of the airstrikes before the Israelis know about them. But the fact is that this is the tip of the iceberg. Iran has many underground cities that they made after the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan by the Americans to defend the country against a possible invasion. Iran has hundreds of thousands of missiles. If they want to go after the Israeli regime, they'll destroy it.
But the question is, are we basically seeing direct war now between Iran and Israel? Because the US has also said so far there is no sign of, mercifully, as they see it, of course, of anyone being injured or hurt as a result of these strikes in Israel. But Iran has said this was only the first wave. Are you expecting a further attack from Iran to Israel?
I'm very confident that the Israelis have suffered a major blow, and I understand how the Israelis and the Americans would hide their losses and their damage. That really doesn't bother us. What is important is that the Americans understand that Netanyahu needs this war. And if Netanyahu gets his war and the Americans get involved, all the US assets in the Persian Gulf will be gone. And those countries that host them, they will be gone. Those missiles and drones will destroy all the oil and gas installations and the ships and the tankers that carry them. They'll be swept away in Iraq. The resistance in Iraq will deal with the Americans. Do the Americans want that? That will lead to a global economic crisis that we haven't seen since 1929 and will be worse than that. And then you will, after the global economy collapses, you'll have millions of people on the move. Do the people of England, the United States, Europe, is that what they want? Then let their leaders continue to support this genocidal maniac in Tel Aviv.
You will know, of course, that Israel say that this is them defending themselves against Hezbollah attacks and against the attack by Hamas a year ago. It is not in anyone's interest for this to continue, is it? And the strikes by Iran today have been, said by the US and by Israel to be ineffective. So is Iran bluffing when it proclaims this strength?
I don't know. Are you acting as their spokeswoman?
I'm asking questions as a journalist, as you know.
The Iranian strikes were very effective, and I think the Israeli regime should be very wary about striking back at Iran, because Iran has already said if they strike back, we will beat them to submission. So they had to be very careful. And Hezbollah has thousands of missiles, heavy whip missiles underground that have been untouched, have no doubt. Hezbollah's military has been untouched. A number of senior officials have been murdered in Beirut, but their thousands of kilometers of underground tunnels and their bases are all untouched. and you have Yemen, you have Iraq. The Israeli regime had better know its place. It's time to end the genocide. It's time to end the Holocaust. Is that a great expectation? So
okay.
it's up.
Well, the US obviously pushing, and others obviously pushing for a de-escalation and a ceasefire. But we're going to have to leave it there. Mohammed Marandi, thank you very much indeed for being with us from the University of Tehran, speaking to us from Beirut.